It started on a night just like any other quiet cool, with a soft wind rustling through the pine trees. I had just finished my shift at the observatory in the mountains, where I work as a part-time astrophysicist and full-time coffee addict. I've always been obsessed with the stars, but that night they were different. Too still, almost watching. Driving down the winding road back home, my headlights flickered. Not just a little glitch, I mean full-on blackout for about 2 seconds, like the entire electrical system just gave up. And then whoosh, they came back on, but only to reveal something I'll never forget. Hovering just above the road, maybe 20 feet in the air, was a shape, no sound. No movement, just a glowing triangular craft suspended in the air like a spider on an invisible thread. It wasn't spinning, it wasn't flashing wild colors. It was still, menacingly still. My car sputtered, stalled, and rolled to a dead stop. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I wasn't sure if it was fear, curiosity, or something else. Something they were doing to me. Then a beam of pale blue light shot down, engulfing my car, but I didn't feel heat or cold, just this vibration, like it was humming through my bones. And then I wasn't in my car anymore. I woke up inside a room with no corners. Everything curved, smooth, seamless. The air smelled clean, sterile. And standing over me were 3 beings, not the big-headed, almond-eyed aliens from pop culture. These ones were taller, maybe 7 feet, thin, translucent skin, long fingers. Their eyes were like polished stone, dark, deep, and unreadable. They didn't speak, but somehow I heard them. Not with ears, but in my head. Telepathy. One of them said, no thought, "You are not in danger. You are being studied." Being studied. What does that even mean? I tried to move, but couldn't. My limbs weren't restrained, my body just didn't respond. It was like they had paused my nervous system. They ran instruments over me, machines that looked more like living organisms than tools. They glowed and pulsed, reacting to me, scanning, sampling. And then I saw what looked like a holographic projection, a star map filled with constellations I'd never seen before. One of them pointed, or at least gestured with a long finger, and suddenly I understood they weren't just visitors. They were travelers, scientists. They weren't here to conquer. They were here to understand us. One of them approached slowly, deliberately. He placed a hand on my forehead. It was cold, almost metallic, but soothing. And then I saw things, flashes, visions. I saw Earth from space. Then I saw other worlds, lush forests under twin suns, cities built into massive cliffs, oceans of colors I don't even have words for. And then I saw destruction, planets burning, civilizations gone, extinction. The voice returned, "This is the cycle. Observation, contact, collapse." What did that mean? They didn't explain. Instead, they showed me humanity from their perspective. Our wars, our technology, our potential, and our self-destruction. They were fascinated and worried. Not because they feared us, but because they saw themselves in us. We were like you, once. Those words echoed inside me. I don't know how long I was there. Could have been hours, could have been seconds. Suddenly, I was back in my car engine, running headlights on. The road was empty, no ship, no light, no sound. But something had changed. My watch said only 4 minutes had passed since the blackout. But my phone had lost 3 days worth of time, and my voicemail had messages from my sister, my boss, even the police, wondering where I'd disappeared to. I couldn't explain it. Not to them. I barely believed it myself. I tried to go back to normal life, tried to forget, but the dreams wouldn't stop. Every night I saw those beings, saw the star map, heard the voice, and then things started happening. Animals would stop and stare at me. Streetlights would flicker when I passed. Electronic devices, phones, radios would glitch near me. But the strangest thing, I could feel people's thoughts, not words, just emotions, flashes, intentions. Was it a gift, a curse, a side effect? I don't know, but I began researching quietly, obsessively. Turns out I wasn't alone. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people around the world report the same things. Lost time, beings, visions, and abilities they didn't have before. It's like they've been selecting people, tagging them, preparing them. But for what? That's when I got the message. Not a text, not an email, a physical letter, no return address, just coordinates and a date. I followed it. Drove 6 hours into the desert, the middle of nowhere. At midnight, the sky turned blood red, and then they appeared again, only this time not just to me. There were others, A dozen people, maybe more. All of us had had the experience. All of us changed in some way. The ship landed, a ramp extended, and one by one people stepped inside. I hesitated. Was this an invitation, a test? Then that voice returned in my head. This is the next phase. Decide. I stood there, heart-pounding eyes locked on that open ramp. The others disappeared into the ship without hesitation, like they'd been waiting for this their whole lives. Maybe they had. But me, I was frozen. Half of me wanted to run, the other half felt drawn in, like I belonged there. Then a woman, tall, red hair, maybe late 30s, turned to me at the top of the ramp. She didn't speak, just nodded like she understood, like she'd seen that look 100 times, that look of disbelief, fear, and awe tangled into one. I stepped forward. The moment I crossed the threshold of the ship, everything shifted. It didn't feel like walking into a room, it felt like stepping into another layer of reality. The air was thicker, but easier to breathe. The lighting wasn't from fixtures, it came from the walls themselves, glowing gently, adapting to us. Inside, there was no cockpit, no seats, no crew running around. Just one large chamber with floating geometric shapes slowly rotating in mid-air. They weren't decorations, they were alive, or at least aware. When we walked in, they reacted, changing colors, positions. It felt like they were scanning us again, but this time, differently. Deeper, not just reading our biology, reading who we were. The woman from earlier, her name was Kara, I found out later, spoke first. They're called interfaces, living AI. They translate us to them, and them to us. I looked around. Them, where are they? Kara didn't answer. Instead, one of the floating shapes drifted toward me, pulsing softly. I flinched, but it stopped inches from my face and emitted a low hum that resonated in my chest. I didn't understand what it meant, but I felt something click inside me like a door unlocking. Then my mind flooded with symbols, sounds, images. A language, but not one I could explain. It wasn't made to be spoken. It was meant to be felt, understood instinctively. We were being taught, reprogrammed almost. Kara smiled. First time's always overwhelming. Don't fight it. And just like that, the interface moved on, leaving me dizzy but alert. My body felt lighter, my thoughts clearer. I noticed others around me experiencing the same thing. A man in his 60s suddenly began sketching complex mathematical patterns on the floor with his finger. A teenage girl started humming a melody that sounded eerily like the vibrations the interface made. We were all reacting differently, but we were changing. One wall of the chamber melted, literally dissolved, and revealed a panoramic view of Earth below. We were already in orbit. No shaking, no G-forces, no sound. Just the quiet hum of a ship that wasn't designed by anything human. Then they entered. Not from a doorway, just appeared. Like they stepped into existence. The same beings from my first encounter. But this time they didn't examine us like lab rats. They observed us like mentors. Curious, patient. One of them moved to the center of the room and with a flick of its fingers summoned a three-dimensional star chart, thousands of systems, paths, routes, lighting up in pulses of blue and red. A single red dot blinked rapidly. Earth. Then the voice returned, not just in my mind this time, we all heard it. A collective message perfectly synchronized in our thoughts. Your world is approaching convergence. A ripple of confusion passed through the group. Kara asked, convergence with what? The being responded, a point at which progress and destruction intersect. Civilizations like yours either ascend or vanish. The weight of that hit hard. This wasn't just about UFOs or abductions. This was about survival. The being continued, we are observers, we guide, we do not interfere, unless the balance is broken. Another interface floated toward the center, spinning faster now, generating images of Earth rising. Temperatures collapsing, ecosystems, wars. Then it shifted to future possibilities, clean cities powered by light harmony expansion beyond the solar system. 2 paths, 1 species, 1 choice. Your minds are open now, you have seen. You know, we were being given knowledge tools to change the course of human history, but the beings weren't going to save us. That wasn't their role. We selected you not for your power, but for your potential. Each of you carries a thread. Together, you may weave a new fate. Then the interface glowed brightly, and we all blacked out. When I woke up, I was in my bed. No burn marks, no implants, no proof. just the feeling that something monumental had happened. But there was something different. A small triangular mark on the inside of my wrist, barely visible unless the light hit it just right. I wasn't sure what it meant, a signature A tracker or just a reminder. Over the next few weeks, strange things kept happening. My memory had expanded. I could recall entire pages of text after a single glance. I understood languages I'd never studied. Technology made sense in ways it never had before. And I wasn't the only one. Kara sent me a secure message she'd experienced the same thing, as had the others. We were evolving, but then came the blackout. Entire power grids failed across 3 continents for 2 minutes. No explanation, no warning. Satellites caught a brief image during that window, a flash of light over the Arctic Circle, and then nothing. Governments denied everything. But we knew, something had arrived or awakened. Kara gathered a few of us at a remote cabin. That night we sat around a fire staring at the stars. No one spoke for a while. Then she said something that stuck with me ever since. They're not coming back to save us. They already gave us everything we need. The question now is, will we use it or destroy ourselves before we even try? The silence afterwards said more than words ever could. And then we saw it. A flash of light in the sky, not a meteor, not a plane, just a single bright pulse like a wink from the cosmos. They were watching. The next year of my life was unlike anything I could have imagined. It started with dreams, vivid, hyper-real, like simulations I didn't consent to, but couldn't escape. Each one took me to a different version of Earth. In some we thrived, no war, no poverty, clean air, interstellar travel. In others, ashes. Cities buried beneath sand, oceans swallowed by acid rain, silence where there should have been life. And every dream ended the same way, that same voice whispering, choose. I tried to ignore it, tried to go back to work, play normal. But how do you pretend to be who you were when your mind has already stepped beyond the veil? The world around me was shifting too. More sightings, more reports. But this time they weren't dismissed as easily. Governments grew quiet, too quiet. Agencies that once mocked UFO hunters suddenly classified everything. Satellites were redirected, whistleblowers vanished. Something was brewing. Then came the signal, a global pulse, short, rhythmic, and unmistakably artificial, picked up by amateur radio enthusiasts across the globe. At first they thought it was a glitch. Then they triangulated it. It was coming from under the Pacific Ocean. Deep. Far deeper than any submarine had ever gone. A week later, every tectonic sensor on Earth went haywire, but there was no earthquake. Whatever was down there had moved. Kara reached out again. We met in Iceland this time, where the auroras danced unnaturally bright. The others came too. Some older, some younger, but all with the same mark on their wrist. We weren't just witnesses anymore. We were part of something unfolding fast. That night around a fire, Kara told us what she'd seen. The convergence isn't just a metaphor, she said, voice low. It's literal. Our timeline is splitting, and something, or someone, is forcing it to collapse into one. We didn't understand at first, but then she played the recording. It was the voice, the same voice I heard in the ship, but distorted, urgent. Repeating one phrase in countless languages, overlapping, echoing. Threshold reached. Prepare the seed. The seed. That's when the oldest member of our group, a man named Elias, finally spoke. They don't want to save the Earth. They want to preserve the idea of it. We asked him what he meant. He looked at each of us and said, we are the seed. Our memories, our DNA, our knowledge. Everything we are collected, stored, ready to be taken elsewhere if this planet doesn't make it. The truth hit hard. They weren't just observing. They were archiving. That night, the aurora pulsed red for the first time in recorded history. We knew what it meant. The next phase had begun. In the months that followed, we spread out, each of us tasked with something. Not instructions, just instinct. Kara went to Antarctica. Elias returned to the mountains of Tibet. I found myself drawn to the Mojave Desert, where ancient carvings seemed to shift under moonlight, revealing patterns that matched the interface's language. We weren't saving the world, we were decoding it. And with every symbol, every dream, every signal we unlocked, we started to see the shape of something greater. A design, a plan that had been seeded across time, not just alien, cosmic. The convergence, we learned, wasn't just a moment. It was a test woven into the fabric of all intelligent life, a point at which species either evolve past self-destruction or extinguish themselves. And the visitors, they weren't gods, they weren't even saviors. They were survivors, messengers from other convergences, some successful, some failed, all carrying knowledge from worlds we'll never see. And now it was our turn. On the anniversary of my first encounter, I returned to the place where it all began. That same road, that same chill in the air. But this time I wasn't scared. I stood in the silence watching the stars. And then, just like before, a light appeared above the trees. But this time I walked toward it. No beam, no paralysis, just an opening. The ship was waiting, but not for experiments, not for study, for a decision. Inside the chamber glowed warmly. The interfaces were there, pulsing slow, steady. And the beings, they nodded as I entered. "You are ready," the voice said. "What happens now?" I asked. And for the first time, the voice responded not with riddles, but with clarity. "You return, you teach, you awaken." I felt something being passed into me, not just data, legacy. The star map appeared again, but this time Earth wasn't blinking red. It pulsed gold. One final message echoed in my mind. A single mind cannot save a world, but it can light the path. And then I was home. No time had passed, no ship in sight. But I knew what I had to do. I write this not as a warning, but as a map, a breadcrumb for those who feel the pull, who dream of places they've never been, who hear voices when the world is quiet. You're not broken, you're awakening. The convergence is here, and the seed has already been planted. Weeks passed, then months. I had returned to the world, but I was no longer fully in it. I moved through cities like a ghost, with a mission sensing things that others couldn't, watching patterns others missed. I wasn't alone. All across the globe, the awakened, those who'd been chosen, visited, or touched in some way, were starting to feel it too. We weren't in contact with each other regularly anymore, but it was like we were part of a shared neural web. When one of us discovered something all of us knew, it began in small ways. A woman in Morocco discovered an ancient artifact that responded to her touch lighting up, showing her coordinates no one had ever mapped. A young boy in Japan who had never spoken a word began drawing symbols, overnight symbols, that matched the interface language. And in Chile, a group of mountaineers reported hearing music in the sky, melodies that bent time, causing hours to pass in minutes. We were evolving, but the world it was unraveling. Climate patterns broke, glaciers collapsed. Strange electromagnetic pulses knocked out communication systems sporadically. Governments, unable to hide what was happening, began clamping down harder than ever before. Martial law was declared in 5 major countries, not because of war or protest, but because people had begun remembering. Memories from dreams, from alternate lives, from other timelines. And they started acting on them. A scientist in Germany built a reactor using designs he claimed to have seen in his sleep. A mother in Nigeria created a serum that healed wounds within seconds, formulas she could never have known. These weren't just flukes, they were echoes, traces of knowledge gifted to the awakened to prepare humanity for a leap it wasn't ready to take. But fear, as always, spread faster than truth. The media twisted it. Mind virus, neural contagion, alien programming. The awakened were labeled dangerous, threats to civilization. And once again, humanity began hunting its own saviors. They came for me too. Black vans, no insignias, no warning. But I was ready. I fled to the old observatory, my first sanctuary. There, in the silence of the mountains, I activated the device I had constructed from memory. A disc no larger than a dinner plate, etched with thousands of living symbols. I didn't know what it would do, only that I had been guided to build it. When I pressed my palm to its surface, it unfolded, literally unfolded, like a flower in zero gravity. From its center, a beam of soft violet light emerged, scanning the sky. And then the interface returned. Not in a ship, not in my head, but right there, physical, present. It hovered silently, then projected an image into the air, me standing on a crumbling earth, and then me standing beneath twin suns. The message was clear, it was almost time. The threshold wasn't just a warning, it was a countdown. The sky had changed. Stars no longer blinked like they used to. They pulsed like heartbeats. Constellations that had been constant for millennia were moving, shifting as if aligning for something, a doorway, a convergence. The awakened, those of us who were left, had gathered again. Not in one place, but across ley lines, ancient nodes of power hidden in every continent. From Machu Picchu to Angkor Wat Stonehenge to the Giza Plateau. We didn't have to speak, we felt it. The end wasn't coming, it was here. Not in fire, not in war, but in choice. The interfaces returned, descending like falling stars, one to each of us. This time they brought no messages, just presence. Kara contacted me for the last time. Her voice, once confident, now held something I hadn't heard before. Doubt. They've offered me a vessel, she said quietly. A chance to leave this world behind. But what if leaving is abandoning those who still sleep? Elias from the mountains said nothing, but we saw his final transmission, him stepping through a light that folded time like cloth, vanishing into a golden horizon. The seed was germinating. Not everyone would go. That was the truth no one wanted to say out loud. You see, this wasn't an alien invasion. It wasn't about saving the planet. It was about offering a new one. A parallel Earth untouched by the mistakes we made. A fresh start if we chose to take it. But only for the awakened, because free will was the final test. On the night of the convergence, I stood at the summit of an ancient volcano in Indonesia, the disk device pulsing in my hands. Above me, the sky cracked not visually but vibrationally. The frequency of existence bent, and a rift shimmered open. I looked around at those with me, doctors, musicians, farmers, children. Not perfect people, but aware people. We had two paths. Step through the rift, carrying with us the essence of Earth, the wisdom of its struggles, and the fire to begin again. Stay and become beacons, guides for those left behind, who might still awaken, who might still choose to change. The interface moved beside me. You may not return, it said. I nodded. I know. And then I stepped forward, but not through the rift. I stepped back to the people, to the firelight, to the broken but still beautiful world we had. Because I realized something. Maybe the convergence wasn't about leaving. Maybe it was about becoming. Becoming the kind of beings who no longer needed salvation from above. Becoming the architects of our own transcendence. The rift closed behind us. Some left, some stayed, but something fundamental shifted. From that night on, humanity began to remember, to reconnect, to rebuild not with machines but with meaning, with each other. And the stars, they still pulse, because they're still watching, not as saviors, but as family, waiting to welcome us home, when we're finally ready. If you felt this calling, this strange tug in your chest when you stare at the stars, maybe you're one of us. Maybe you're awakening, and maybe, just maybe, this story is yours too. Thank you for listening to this journey beyond time, beyond fear, and beyond the stars. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep explorations into mysteries, consciousness, and what might lie beyond the veil of our known world. Stay curious, stay kind, and until next time, keep watching the skies.